Hello, my name is CJ, and welcome to my final episode review for Sailor Moon Crystal Season 3. Today I'll be reviewing Episode 39, Act 38, Infinity 12, Infinite Journey. Let's get started with the good. So, this episode features a costume change for most of the Sailor Soldiers. They get their Super S or Dream uniforms in this episode. I thought the way they handled it was really cute. In the manga, it's just kind of this shot of all of them and the new costumes, but in this new anime adaptation, they featured like a cute little almost like mini transformation for some of them, which I thought was adorable. That was a really, really good adaptation choice. Next up is something I noticed a lot of people on Reddit and Sailor Moon forums got really upset about last week, and that is whether or not Sailor Saturn and Hotaru are two different people. In my opinion, they're the same person. I always thought they were the same person. This especially is reflective in later arcs when Hotaru and Sailor Saturn do come back and her and Chibiusa immediately are friends again. There is no, Saturn doesn't say to Chibiusa, you were really nice to Hotaru back then, so I'm going to be nice to you. No, Sailor Saturn goes up to Chibiusa and says, I came back because I wanted to fight with you, because you're my friend. That's to me is reflective of Hotaru and Saturn being the same person. That's just my own opinion, though. Feel free to have your own. I thought, again, this was reflective in this anime adaptation's choice to have Chibiusa remember key moments with Hotaru. I always thought in the manga that it was sort of odd that Sailor Saturn came back in this big way, and Chibiusa almost, doesn't even, have an emotional moment remembering Saturn as Hotaru. I thought that was kind of odd. So I'm really glad that this anime adaptation took that little problem I had with the manga and actually fixed it. So that was great. I really, really liked that change. Speaking of Chibiusa stuff, I really liked the added scene with Sailor Pluto and Chibiusa, Chibi Moon at the end, where, Sailor Pluto held her hands and told her, yes, we're friends. We are Sailor Soldiers. We're coming back to see you. Many of you guys love the relationship between Sailor Pluto and Sailor Chibi Moon. And I agree. It's a very sweet one. So I'm glad they added that little gesture in. They didn't really change any dialogue from the manga, but just in the gesture alone, the scene was so much better. And I really, really appreciated Toei's direction with that scene. Another interesting choice was they cut this tiny little scene at the end of the manga where they kind of don't believe that Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto have left. So they actually run up and check their apartments to see if they're there. I liked the removal of that scene. I thought it was unnecessary in the manga. We know they're gone. We don't need that little extra thing of them running around trying to find them. So I thought that was totally fine. Oh boy. So I will give my thoughts on this a little bit later. So as most of you guys now know, wow, we got a little taste of the dream arc in this episode. Holy wow. I thought that the additional little comedy bits with Usagi getting just nailed on by her friends, just absolutely destroyed, were really, really funny. That was really good. In the manga, you get the same thing, but it's not nearly as funny as it is in this scene. I thought they did a phenomenal job translating the humor to sort of more modern anime than just keeping it bare bones minimum and just replicating exactly what the manga had. I thought that was super cute. Usagi's expressions were absolutely hysterical, and I liked when she danced the little maracas. That was funny. And of course we get the best ending returning for this final episode, Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune's beautiful duet. I loved it. It was great. Chibiusa and Tuxedo Mask's endings were, they were okay. They're cute, but it's whatever. Seeing this ending again was awesome. Yeah. Let's go to the meh. So I don't really have much to talk about in this section, just a few, two things. I'm not really sure about the direction of Super Sailor Moon coming back. In the manga, she just kind of appears, as she does in Crystal, she appears almost as a parallel to Sailor Saturn. They're both in the same pose when they rise up from the ground. But they show Sailor Moon kind of floating in the liquidy crap that is Pharaoh 90, and I'm not really sure if I liked that. I kind of was I liked the mysterious angle a little bit more, but then again, I put this in the meh section because I can kind of understand why Toei did this. Because in the manga, she appears out of nowhere. It's there's not really much of an indication as to why she came back specifically. So I like that they at least try to explain it a little bit, oh, the silver crystal brought her back, it's okay, whatever, I can deal. So again, I put it in the mess section because I didn't really feel like it added anything too much, but it didn't really take away anything either, so it's whatever. Next we have the return of Neo Queen Serenity, and she restores Tokyo to its former state. but kind of leaves Mugen Academy alone. I was kind of surprised by that. I was like, wow, Sailor Moon, you dick. Like, people, I know it was an evil organization, but I mean, people had careers there. That's not to say that Mugen Academy can't continue, even if it's dark, over-repressive, like, aggressive, like, bosses aren't there anymore. I mean, people could still take over and make it a great place. No, I'm kidding. But, yeah, I don't know about the direction of that scene. In the manga, she kind of brings everybody back to life. In this version, she, like, restores buildings, which, I mean, that's something I don't remember ever seeing Sailor Moon be able to do, but, I mean, it's not really good, it's not really bad, I'm just confused. That's all. Now let's get to the bad. And once again, I should clarify, guys, this is, like, me nitpicking. These are real nitpicks. As with most of the episodes of this season, I really did enjoy this one. And I thought it was a great episode overall. So, again, we have some questionable animation here and there. The moments that really, really mattered, the scenes that needed to be animated properly in order to get my seal of recommendation were there. Those were fine. But occasionally we had a few little questionable shots. And I have a feeling these are going to be restored in the Blu-ray, which, again, by the way, I should clarify, Blu-ray editions can only save a show if the story and the pacing and the direction is up to stuff to begin with. If those elements aren't there, the Blu-ray editions are just going to be, again, like painting like golden paint on a turd. It's still a turd, alright? But this third season of Sailor Moon Crystal is awesome to begin with, so those added touches with the Blu-ray are going to make it even better, and it's going to be amazing. Next up, we have Dark Dome Close, kind of a weird name. Pluto seals Sailor Saturn beyond the gates of time into the silent void, and it was good. It was all right, but I thought the direction was kind of wonky. In the manga, you do see Pluto's face. Here, you don't, and it shows Pluto in front of the gate. I was like, wait a second, like, they're gonna get sucked right into it. Pluto's just gonna be like, oh no, and like trip into it too. Like, I mean, what's going on? The direction of that was very odd. They should have had the door appear in the sky like it did in the manga. That way, we're not super confused as to why Pluto's not getting sucked in too. However, I will say, as a positive note, I did like how they showed Pluto cry a little bit about it. I thought that was great. That was a very nice touch. It was a very excellent adaptive choice. A comedic scene toward the end of the episode where Mamoru, Usagi, and Chibiusa are walking together was cut. Basically, Chibiusa wants to get a piggyback ride from Mamoru, and that was cut. I really don't mind that. I mean, I get they cut it for time, and also it might have been a little awkward for them to try to animate Chibiusa climbing onto Mamoru's back, so I could see where they were like, okay, if we're going to cut something, let's do that. Again, I'm not really too upset about this cut, because we had additional comedic scenes earlier on in the episode, as I mentioned before, so I thought that was it's forgettable. It's a forgettable thing for me. It's really not that big of a deal. So we come to the end of the episode, and I'm getting hyped because I didn't know the dream arc was here. I was like, I was watching the episode, and I looked at the time stamp, and I was like, there's a lot of this episode to go, and we're at the end of the Infinity arc. It's over. I mean, what's going to happen? And sure enough, they introduced the dream arc, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was a little excited. Actually, I was very excited, let's not lie. I was very excited. And, we get to the solar eclipse, and Chibiusa hears that, bell sound, and she's like, wow, what is that mysterious noise? And I was like, oh my gosh, horse is coming! It's the horse! I was so excited. I was like, horse, horse, yes, horse! And then she and Usagi turn around and cut to black. The season is over. So yeah, I was disappointed that we couldn't see Pegasus. In the manga, Pegasus, I'm gonna be real, Pegasus looks like crap. Takeuchi does not know how to draw a horse. I mean, usually her art is very beautiful, but he always looked extremely derpy to me in the manga. So Toei Animation, if they're being smart about it, they're gonna have to completely redesign Pegasus for Crystal. And to be honest, I don't blame them that they didn't include him at the very end, because, I mean, could you imagine being the team that's going to be working on Season 4, even if it's the same team that's working on Season 3, to have to make such an important decision now, and then have it affect a production that, could be months, maybe hopefully not, years down the line, that's a pretty big risk. So I totally understand why they didn't do it. But it was still pretty cool seeing the dream arc, at least a little bit of it. I only put this in the bad section because I really wanted to see Pegasus. This is just me complaining. Overall, I give this episode a B+. It wasn't anything too fantastic, but it was certainly the ending that Infinity deserved. I'm really, really glad that Toei Animation didn't do what a lot of animation studios do and just run out of budget by the final episode. No, they really took their time, made sure that this season was something that we Sailor Moon fans could be proud of. Truly, truly proud of. This final episode is definitely a reflection of that. So B+, it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. Now, here we are at the end. Sailor Moon Crystal, the 3rd season, is done. This is the final episode review, and I don't know, it feels strange. If I could have a bit of a heart-to-heart, when the 1st and 2nd seasons were coming out, I was just writing written reviews for my website, Our Inked Obsession, and I was really excited at first, and as you read the reviews, or rather looking back as I read the reviews again, I noticed that I was getting more and more disheartened as time went on. The reviews started becoming less of a celebration of the series I loved, and more of just like me lamenting what it could have been. I eventually stopped at episode 18 and did not continue because I was so disheartened, and I have a feeling that in an alternate universe where the 3rd season started off great, just like the 1st season had started out great with that initial, actually good first episode, I have a feeling that these video reviews would have gone down the same path. You would have seen me hit about maybe episode 5, 6, or 7, and I would have just stopped because I would have gotten so disheartened by the whole thing. But no, that didn't happen. Toei Animation looked at the sharp viewership decline of the 1st and 2nd seasons. They looked at fan criticism and fan complaints, at least I hope they did, and saw that we Sailor Moon fans were not satisfied. Yes, there were stragglers. Yes, there were, I guess you could call them pride people, Sailor Moon Crystal pride individuals, who celebrated the series because it was Sailor Moon, ignored all of its faults, and they're free to do so, by the way. I'm not bashing them when I say that. But most of us left. Most of us left around that 3rd horrible episode. I stuck around because I thought it was hilarious, and I was very interested in the show as an adaptation. But as you know, I too eventually quit. I quit at episode 18. I didn't finish it like I promised myself I would, because it just got too sad and too upsetting. But again, here we are. They did it. They actually did it. When we look back on Sailor Moon Crystal, let's just assume they F up the Dream arc and they totally destroy the Stars arc. By the way, Stars is my favorite. I'm so excited to see a future season of that. Let's just say that they completely mess them up, alright? We will still have Infinity. We will still have this incredible 3rd season. And I'm extremely grateful for that. I'm glad that we finally got the adaptation that I believe the Sailor Moon manga deserved. I took all of my review scores and I averaged them together, and I came at a score of a B for Sailor Moon Crystal Season 3. Now, a B is a very good score when you consider that my grade for the 1st season, not the 2nd season because I didn't finish the 2nd season, so I feel like I can't appropriately review it. My grade for the 1st season of Sailor Moon Crystal was an F. Alright? This series went from an F to a B. That's incredible. I really, and if you think I'm being harsh about the 1st season, no, I consider that to be an absolute failure, alright? Because it just was. I mean, watch my top 5 reasons you shouldn't watch Sailor Moon Crystal for more information about that. It is a failure. This is a success. It is exactly what Sailor Moon has deserved this entire time. And it gets my recommendation for someone's re-entry into Sailor Moon. Skip the first 2 seasons of Sailor Moon Crystal. If you're an old Sailor Moon fan and you want to get into it today, watch this 3rd season, skip the first 2. It's absolutely amazing, and it's exactly what Sailor Moon needed. I love it. Again, I'm sorry, I'm just speechless. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this amazing ride. And you know what? Thank you, Toei Animation, for making something that we Sailor Moon fans can finally be proud of. Until next time, this is CJ, signing off.